If you like to yell and smash enemies, then the Barbarian is the class for you. Today we're going to go through this class and everything you need to know about the big, heavy, brooding, melee-focused Barbarian, so let's go! Let me know in the comments how you're building out your Barbarian if you're playing as Karlach. So these class guides are designed to teach you the mechanics of a class and everything you need to know to succeed. I'll have a link to the playlist here as well for you guys. Playing as a Barbarian is definitely a melee-focused class. Now you have that rage mechanic which will increase the overall damage that your melee and improvised weapons will do, as well as giving you advantage on strength checks and saving throws. But the main benefit here is that they have an insane amount of potential melee damage that they can do because of their class ability Reckless Attack, which gives you advantage on your attack rolls, so you've got a higher chance of actually hitting. The trade-off here is that it gives your enemies advantage on you, and typically because you have a lower armor class, because most Barbarians won't actually wear armor because of their armored or unarmored defense. While you are not wearing armor, your armor class equals 10 plus your dex modifier plus your constitution modifier. So as you level up as a Barbarian and gain extra feats to increase your overall constitution or dexterity or gear that can do the same thing, your armor class will increase that way, typically, rather than wearing armor. Though you can wear armor because you do have proficiencies, you could also actually just pop on a shield as well because that doesn't technically count as armor. But the main modifier here for Barbarian is strength, and you'll definitely be focusing on that. So when you're picking a race, the options here are really up to you based on your role-playing perspective, but if you're looking to min-max, the taller classes are the better options here, like the elf, tiefling, drow, human, gith, half-elf, dragonborn, and half-orc, because they all have that standard movement speed. In terms of like the best, I would say the half-orc is potentially the best because of relentless endurance. So when you are downed, instead of being downed, you regain 1 HP, which is a great like counterbalance to say unarmored defense and having that lower armor class, as well as reckless attack with enemies often having advantage on the Barbarian. So you've got that way to stay up. Plus savage attacks is a huge buff. So if you do critical hit, it's triple damage rather than double. And because you have advantage on a lot of your attack rolls, you've got a higher chance of that actually happening as well. So you can definitely trigger that effect much more often. So half orcs as Barbarians are really, really strong. Best skills here for a Barbarian. Athletics is the only strength skill, and Constitution is always going to be high as a Barbarian, so there isn't really anything in that line either, but I'd probably go Perception and Survival, so you can see things a little bit better in the open world, like hidden caches and buttons, trap chests, that sort of a thing. For the background, Soldier and Outlander, maybe, but it's really up to you in terms of the role-playing experience. For the ability points here, you really only need to focus on Strength, Dexterity, and Constitution. They're the only main important stats. Now, the recommended does put some stats into Wisdom, which you can use for that sort of perception survival stuff, but if you're looking to min-max, I wouldn't sort of worry about it too much. At level 3, you will pick a subclass between the Berserker, Wild Heart, and Wild Magic. The shorthand here is that these subclasses will essentially buff your rage mechanic into one specific way. For the Berserker, it's like leaning into like the frenzy of the rage. For the Wild Heart, you will imbue your rage with some sort of like animal effects, and the Wild Magic will imbue it with a Wild Magic effect. So it does depend a little bit on what sounds most interesting to you, though I would say that Berserker and Wild Heart are probably the two stronger ones here. Wild Heart gets a little bit of an edge in terms of conversational and like open world aspects because it gives you speak with animals, which is actually really beneficial to do because you can learn heaps of interesting things from that. Plus the Bestial Hearts are really worthwhile in terms of giving you different effects, whether that be to say the Bear Heart, which will allow you to restore some of your health, which is beneficial, or the Wolf, which would give your allies advantage on melee attack rolls. But I personally think the Tiger is probably the best option here based on what I've tested. So it will give you an increased jump distance, but the Tiger Bloodlust is the main thing here, which is like essentially a cleave that you can use every turn, like the cleave weapon attack, but you can actually use this much more often. It will hit 3 enemies and also trigger bleed on them, and then you can buff your bleeding effects on enemies at level 6 with the animal aspect of the Tiger, which will allow you to add your strength modifier to attack rolls against bleeding and poison enemies. Or you could also go into say the Wolverine, which when you attack a bleeding or poison enemy, you can maim them for a turn as well. So there's a lot of synergy between that option as well. The rest of the leveling process for the Barbarian is pretty straightforward. You don't make huge amount of choices here except for picking your feats. But at level 4, you'll pick your first feat, and I think you should go Savage Attacker here. So when making weapon attacks, you roll your damage dice twice and pick the highest result. It will further increase your overall damage output. The other option, which you could either pick up first if you prefer to, but is hugely worthwhile picking up, especially if you're wielding a great weapon like a two-handed weapon, is Great Weapon Master. So when you land a critical hit or kill a target with a melee weapon attack, you can make another melee weapon attack as a bonus action that turn, which is great because any time that you can attack again is just like a huge benefit in this game. And because Barbarians will often be dealing so much damage, especially when you combine, say, savage attacks, which we just talked about, or say you go half orc for their own savage attack buff that you get, plus you've got reckless attack to make sure you're hitting those targets and all this other stuff, and the extra attack you get at level 5, chances are almost every turn you're going to kill something as a barbarian, so you'll trigger that effect very often. So you'll often be able to attack again a third time in that one turn, which is very, very beneficial. Great Weapon Master also has like the all-in effect, so you can deal an actual 10 damage to enemies with the trade-off of -5 to your attack rolls, which obviously because of reckless attack, you can roll those dice twice anyway, so it's not going to be as much of an issue, but it's a fantastic option. So some general tips for the Barbarian and playing this class. Now, you definitely want to be in melee range, and getting there as fast as you can is beneficial. So you may want to use your action at the start of combat to dash and try and get in the thick of things, because you want to be in the middle of enemies so you can cleave them, so you can hit them and hit many at each turn as possible. Obviously, you do want to use your bonus action to enable rage when you do have the option to do so. In the spellbook screen, you should turn on the reaction so that if you are going to miss an attack, you can actually turn this option on for reckless attacks. So before it actually hits or misses, it'll inform you that you're going to miss, and it'll say, would you like to enable reckless attacks? And then you can hit yes. And so you always make sure you're actually going to hit enemies, or, you know, most likely, right? It doesn't guarantee it's going to hit, but you gain advantage, so you get to roll that dice again. Otherwise, if you're not using your bonus action, you can coat your weapon into some sort of an oil or poison, which will trigger the effect on that when you do actually swing the weapon as an action, so you can use it up in that way. You could also choose to wear armor, and in the early stages of the game, it's definitely viable because you do have light and medium armor proficiencies. You could do so. It'll probably level out your armor class higher than it would, but as you sort of level up and you gain benefits, or you say, with Karlach, for example, right, if you can respec her and change her ability points just to line up a little bit better, because hers aren't like perfectly aligned, but if you change them so that your strength, your con, and your dex are all those positive numbers, then you can definitely get that armor class a bit higher. But you could just wear light and medium armor until you can get to that point, or say you pick like the ability improvement or something like that as the alternative. Having someone, say, in melee range with you, like in my case, my paladin is here, or just having ways to support your barbarians because they will take damage, is a good option, like whether that be with healing or ways to avoid damage coming from to them, to say increase their armor class with Shield of Faith or something like that. There's definitely options, because you will expect to take damage as a barbarian, like because of most enemies will have advantage on you, so you won't get a lot of misses with barbarians, like when enemies swing against them compared to some of the other classes. They're much more of like a DPS sort of damage focused melee class compared to, say, the fighter or the paladin or something like that, that can sort of tank hits a little bit better. You can definitely tank hits as a barbarian, like, don't get me wrong, and there are ways to obviously, you know, heal yourself, but just be mindful of that you probably will take damage more than some of the other classes because of the advantage that enemies often have on you. But that's basically everything you need to know about the Barbarian and Karlach. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching this video till the end. Thank you to our members for supporting the channel. My name is Norza, and I hope you have a great day.